to me up until it just stopped attending my meetings one day, and that's fundamentally not what you want from an AI note taker, is it? It's been great up until then.
What we're saying is AI is great, but not without its issues.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, Amanda. Amanda's here.
Feels a lot like people. Nobody's perfect.
Yeah. Okay. Just gonna hang on just another sort of minute or so. So there's lots of people due in today, but I hope you're all well. I'm just gonna.
Oh, hello, Amanda. Hello.
Hi.
That is a really warm jumper. I'm very pleased with that.
Needed today, I think.
Yeah, you're out in the country, aren't you? How are you?
All good, thank you. Looking forward to this.
We've got some ex-Detica here as well. We've got Mr. Tony Gollidge as well.
Oh my goodness.
Which was interesting because back in the day, I used to describe Tony as a machine with his bid writing skills. So if you ever find an AI that is as good as Tony, that will be quite impressive.
The Tony test.
Yeah.
Okay, right. I think all with the people are still coming through. We're popular today. This is great. Okay, I'm going to still let people through. Sandy, I'm going to make you co-host so you can let people in as well as I'm giving the introduction. Oh, if I can get, there we go. Make co-host. There we go. So if you accept that, you'll be able to admit people in as we go, because we've got quite a good flow of people. Okay, yeah. Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Yeah, welcome. I am just going to share my screen and we'll get stuck in. So I have only one screen today, so forgive me a little bit of clicking around while I get used to it. I'm kind of not in my usual spot, so I just need to find all my right buttons and arrange all my different screens and things. There we go. Okay, let's click in here and present. There we go. Okay, so this session is called How to Cut Bid Writing Time by 50% using AI. So I'm going to just explain exactly what I mean by that. So today we're going to be talking, I'm going to introduce Sandy in a second, but we're going to be talking about AI in the world of bid writing. So I know quite a few of you are experienced bid writers. I know some of you might be new to the world of bid writing. I personally am completely new to it. I'm an AI trainer, as I'll introduce myself properly in a second. I'm an AI trainer and I'm looking into public sector contracts for the first time. I've worked with Sandy for years as a bidding expert, and they've also released a really interesting AI tool that we're going to show you in a little bit as well. So we've had a conversation before about an introduction to the bidding world, but also how AI can play a role. And the conversation was so interesting, we wanted to share it with you, and that's the basis of this webinar, all the different things that we found and the different tools that can be used across the process, and also the areas where they absolutely can't be used as well, which I think is just as important. So we're going to start off with a few key distinctions, and then we're going to talk about 3 different parts of the bidding process: prospecting, bid, no bid, and bid writing. And then finally, we're going to be responsible, of course, and talk about risks and limitations, both from my broader AI perspective and then from Sandy's much more specific bidding perspective as well. So first of all, if you want to, it'd be really, really helpful as we're introducing ourselves, if you could let us know your experience, not in AI, but in bidding in the chat. If you just let us know a little bit, how much experience do you have in the world of bidding? Just another thing as well, we're going to be demoing these tools today. So I'm going to be taking you through my favorite tool, Claude. Anybody who's been on one of my webinars before will have seen Claude and would have seen Letterly as well. But Claude it's kind of like ChatGPT, but the human sounding one. So I'm going to show you a little bit about that because it's amazing. If people keep on mute, that'd be fab. Letterly, which is a lesser known one, but one I use every single day, amazing for getting ideas and original thought into a really structured way. Humantic, which is a prospecting tool. And then we're going to have a look at a couple of Contract Finder Pros tools, including Tender Ninja, one of the best named AI tools that I've found. But yeah, it's really exciting. I want to show you a little bit around that too. So just as an introduction for those who don't know me, I'm Heather Murray. I'm founder at a company called AI for Non-Techies, which does exactly what it says on the tin. I teach people how to use AI, generative AI specifically, and I do it in a very non-technical way. So I work with all sorts of different size companies all over the world. I sit on the ISO panel for AI and cybersecurity and education, and I advise the UK government as well. Sandy, over to you to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Heather. I'm delighted to do this as well because I've been a business developer and I treat bidding as part of that process. It's arguably the bit I dislike the most, and therefore anything that can make it better and faster is important. I've been selling to government for 20 something years. I don't want to talk about exactly how many. I've been sales director for BA Systems, and more latterly, I founded Contact Finder Pro, my own side business, but basically to do the things that I couldn't get done otherwise, and that I was frustrated didn't exist. Also delighted to just look at the, thank you for the bid information on your experience. That's a real range. We've got absolute ninjas in bidding, and we've got pretty much newbies as well. So we'll try and just refer to terms and explain abbreviations. If we say anything that makes no sense, just put it in the chat and we'll try and clarify that question as well. There's bound to be something. The things I've been good at, I would say, specifically in that BD process, is getting to cash quickly, building that customer relationship, getting it over the line. And I think what we're seeing with AI is the ability for those skills in salespeople to be enhanced. And I think that's my recommendation. That's how I think it should be. You use the AI to do all the bits that salespeople, and we've all met salespeople, we're wonderful beasties, but we've got some massive weaknesses quite often. We can start to counter those weaknesses and enhance those strengths. And I think the businesses that grasp that properly are going to basically make a lot of money against the businesses that don't grasp it. And we'll talk a bit about that. So, Heather, before I waffle all day.
Well, if anybody's got any questions throughout, what me and Sandy will do is when the other one's talking, we'll keep an eye on the chat and we'll throw up questions. So please feel free to just put them in the chat. Anything pertinent to what we're speaking about, we'll talk about that straight away. And anything at the end, we'll gather other questions towards the end. So any clarity you need, please do let us know. And also those new to AI, no such thing as a stupid question. Also, I'm sure, and Sandy, those new to bidding, no such thing as a stupid question either. Please feel free to ask any level of question. It's all completely fine. Okay. So I would like to know, so we've asked about your bidding. I would like to know, just with a number 1 to 5, where would you rate yourself in your AI skills here? So would you consider yourself a newbie? So completely new to AI, haven't used it before, not sure what's going on in this world. Are you a dabbler? So you might have tried a little bit of ChatGPT, maybe a couple of other tools, but you're not quite sure how you're going to get results from it. It just seems a bit novel at the moment. Are you hungry? So you're going, right, okay, this AI thing is really big. I'm consuming as much AI learning as I can. Are you an integrator? So you started to actually integrate it into your role, into your business. You started to see results. Or are you a number 5? Are you an expert? Are you also somebody who's working in or training others in AI? So let's have a little look at the numbers that are coming into the chat.
That's a great range.
It's a real range. Wow. This is such a good range. Okay, so we've got actually quite a few integrators, quite a few more integrators than I thought. So actually, I don't think it could be more spread. We've got a couple of 5s in there as well. Wonderful, wonderful. I have to be at the top of my game today, of course. Okay, brilliant. We've even got 0. Very, very new, very, very new. So don't worry, we'll make sure that we cater for lots of different levels. But I would say it's probably, averaging out around about 3. So that's good. So we've got some people feel they're completely new to AI. Some people really up there sort of working in and training others in AI as well. So this is really interesting for the experts who are training others in AI. This is a really interesting opportunity to do what I'm doing and learning about public sector contracts, because there's a lot of them starting to arrive now. So it's really good to learn how to use our own skills in submitting these bids. Okay, brilliant. So thank you. So just a few distinctions we wanted to speak about first. I think, Sandy, if I kick off, I think a lot of this is about human in the loop. So making sure that humans are very, very much part of this whole process. It cannot possibly function. AI can't function on its own. So I think when a lot of people come to me when they're learning about AI, and what they're asking for is for something to be done without them being there. So generally that will be automation, which has been around a lot longer than generative AI. And we'll talk about what generative AI is in a second. But the AI and automation are 2 different things. They go together beautifully, but they're 2 separate things. AI requires a human to be there and to be interacting as it stands at the moment. It's changing, but as it stands at the moment. And then automation will do things on its own. Once it's set up, it can go off and do stuff. So humans are very much required. And then also something we spoke about before was human skills versus AI capabilities. AI is absolutely not a silver bullet in any way whatsoever. It has severe flaws. There's some things it just cannot do, and we're going to be very open about those things. But so it's knowing, you know, where a human needs to be and where AI can fill some gaps as well. I don't know, Sandy, if you have any thoughts on those two things.
So there's a bit for me that when you do a bid, there are unique bits of customer relationship and customer content that the sales lead should be bringing in, or maybe even the wider business if they know. And I think what you've got here is the ability to manage that information better so it doesn't get lost. And I've seen that happen a lot. Make sure it's concluded, and also hopefully free up time from the internal admin and all the assurance and all the processes you've got to do to enable people to include that emotional content in those bids, and potentially actually start storyboarding better rather than a slightly panicky 20 minutes to go before the end. You realize you had storyboarded it, but you forgot what you've done. I've seen that a load of times. It's making it quicker.
For the newbies, what's storyboarding, just quickly, Sandy?
Great question. Yeah. So sometimes the answers will be questions are quite simple. You know, sure, have you got ISO 9001 certification? Right. Okay. Yes. Fine. Some of them might be, what would be your solution to deliver XYZ problem? And it could be quite a complicated solution. You have multifaceted components. You know there's specific customer languages in there that you've got to include. There's some win themes you want to talk about, some things that are unique to you. How do you get that flow knitted in? What are all the points? That storyboarding session is where you just shape all that content and get it right. And you need to do that, or you should do that, before you start writing the answer.
Okay, so like planning your answer. Okay, brilliant.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. So I just wanted to differentiate between AI for the newbies. I know we had a 1-0 and a couple of 1s and 2s. So I just want to talk about, to be specific, we're talking specifically, sorry, about generative AI. So I've just got my little beginners chart, which I'll just do very quickly. We talked about generative AI. So AI itself, been around since 1950. This is nothing new. We've had also pretty much the Turing test is probably one of the first incidences of AI. So that's been around for a really long time, and this is our kind of overarching term for all the things that go below it. So 1950 is kind of like a timeline, 1950, and then we go through to where we are today. Then we have machine learning. Machine learning is when AI learns from past data. So when it can make recommendations. So when Netflix makes recommendations, that is when it's learning from past data. So what you stop on, what you skip past, all of those things, it's learning from that past data in order to make recommendations. Your email spam filters, your predictive text, all machine learning in action, and that's been around since the late 90s, early 2000s as well. So that's a type of AI that we're all using. So for those people who were saying, I'm completely new to this, you're using AI all the time, but it's just a different type of AI to the one we're all talking about at the moment. Then we've got deep learning. This is all very, very simplified. But we've got deep learning, which is where we get insights from the data. So we are everything we do in life, we're building up this massive pile of data. So whenever we open our computers, we touch our phones, we go to a cash machine, we go to the supermarket, we walk past a camera, we're building up this massive amount of data, and we need to get insights from it. So deep learning uses neural networks named after neurons in our brain to glean insights from that data. So we've had it where it's learned from the past in machine learning. About 10 years later, we had it where it's getting insights and starting to kind of make data-backed decisions. So things like when Google Maps will predict traffic and arrival times, very useful stuff. That's deep learning in action as well. So another way we're all using AI in our everyday life. And then finally, the bit that we're talking about right now is generative AI. So we've had it's learnt from the past. It's started to make decisions based on that past data. And now it's generating something new. So something that a human would previously have created, text, image, video, all of that sort of stuff, audio, it's now creating something new. So an example would be ChatGPT creating a whole email from a sentence or a one-word prompt as well. So just to be specific, in this session, when we're saying AI, we're talking about generative AI, not necessarily the whole of AI in general, just to give you that background there. Okay. Over to you, Sandy.
So those who've done bidding will recognize this as a horrifyingly simplified bid process, but in an hour-long webinar, there's nothing else you can possibly do. I'm thinking about it in 3 stages. There's the prospecting bit. You're going out there, you're meeting customers, you're researching, you're understanding the need, you're getting a handle on it. working out if you want to be involved in whatever competition. There's bid, no bid. You've got the bid in. Are you going to go for it or not? Noting that I think businesses have a tendency to bid too often. We'll come back to that. And then the bid writing itself. How do you do that? How can you make it quicker? How do you get it in? And how do you write something that wins? Which, of course, there's no point writing something that comes second. That's bad.
Okay, brilliant. So these are the 3 stages we're going to be breaking up at the moment. Okay, so yeah, first stage. Yeah, could you explain this a little bit more to me? Because I've got some ideas around from our previous conversation, but if you could just explain it for the
Sure.
benefit of the group.
So yeah, your kind of headline, you might know your market. Maybe you're doing defense and you need to do the Navy, maybe the NHS, and you're selling to a particular trust. You kind of know who they are. Or possibly it's even wider and you go, well, I sell shoes. Who buys shoes? You need to go out and work out who you're talking to, or at least you do if you're going to grow your business into new markets. With some of those established customers, they might have large programs, they might have policy agendas, they might have plans. Sometimes you can even look at things in Parliament. So government says they're going to commit to the levelling up agenda. And I pick a terrible example because there was very little spend. But they commit to something that's several years out, and you go and build the relationships, you understand that market, you look at where that business is going to come in the future. You also try and meet key stakeholders, try and get a handle on them. What do they want? What are they interested in? What constraints they might have, and you start to understand the kind of the estate that they're working from. You also, for example, I'll do it in IT terms because I just know it better. If they are using IBM for everything for the last 20 years, it's kind of worth knowing. If they are using Azure for their kind of IT systems, maybe not suggesting a competitive solution is going to be very effective. Or if you're good at competitive solutions, maybe just kind of go away. The other one is understanding a bit about their kind of historical commercial processes. You might look at what kind of frameworks they're on and how to get on that. So some of the AI tools here are about annotating and making it slicker. And I guess, Heather, you're going to talk about ideas for slickifying that process. That's not a word, is it?
Slick, it should be a word. Slickifying. Yeah, so actually that's a really good point. So the first one I want to show you, and I can't really demo it because it's a kind of phone-based app, but I can show you the landing page, which shows you what it is. So when we talk about the kind of power of human skills in all of this, it's your knowledge and your experience and your opinions that are super important. Don't outsource the thinking to AI is my main point. So if you've got some ideas as to what you might want to be initially looking for example, and if you're anything like me and you have a bit of a chaotic brain, it's hard to get it from idea into action. This is just a little nifty tool I wanted to put in there, which is letterly.app. It's about 10 quid a month. And here you've got, in fact, if we kind of can we reload this video because it's actually quite nice to see it in action. I'll just reload the whole page. Because it shows it quite, there we go. It's this woman who's clearly lying on holiday for whatever reason. And you just talk. So you can talk for about 20 minutes if you want to, 20 or 30 minutes. And what it does, you have these different options so it will create things for you. So you talk and you just say whatever you're thinking about, any ideas that you're talking about, and it will then give you some options. You click on the options and you can create action plans, separate ideas into themes. You can create timelines, all sorts of different things. I think just this kind of applies to all the different stages, but I just wanted to show you this one because it's a really, really good way of getting that original thought, that human thought and human ideas and human planning into a structured way. But one of the other things that I wanted to show you was we were talking about specific people, relationship building as well. We were mentioning in our conversation, weren't we? So I wanted to show you a really cool tool called Humantic. So Humantic, that was Letterly, by the way, Humantic. So say, what would be the situation, Sandy, that you kind of want to look somebody up and you want to know more about their personality and like what kind of words they might respond to and stuff? So you want a better chance of getting an email read or stuff like that. What sort of circumstance would that be?
Obviously, you're at the early stage and slightly creepy bit of stalkery research.
Mm-hmm.
You've identified a customer you're after, say some kind of an NHS trust. You are going through LinkedIn to try and find out who the right people are. at some point you'll hopefully meet that individual. You might want to go to places that they are, or maybe you can't get to them physically for a whole host of reasons. So you want to send them an email, and then you want to send them an email that is more likely to engage them, frankly. So you're going to go through that process. And it's kind of like sometimes you send a cold email. It's not recommended. It doesn't have the best results, but sometimes that's all you've got. So how do you increase your chances of success as much as you can?
Okay, so I'm going to show you something. So let's say the person who wanted to contact was Sandy. Okay, so this operates on LinkedIn. So this is called Humantic, human with a TIC at the end. And it operates on LinkedIn, but what it does, it pulls what's called, or what I call, digital breadcrumbs. So wherever you are on the internet, whether you've got a profile on a website or you've got comments on a YouTube or you've got anything, pulls it all together. It sits on LinkedIn, but it isn't just getting its information from LinkedIn. But you go to the person, they have to have a LinkedIn profile for it to be triggered. But we go to the person's profile, and then you've got this little extension here, and you click no personality. And again, all of these tools have multiple use cases. I just think this would be quite interesting to know at this point. You click no personality, it says 30 seconds, it's never that long. There we go, we've got it already. And there we have a personality profile. Sandy, you're a captain. I'm also a captain as well, so that's good. But yeah, so you have a personality profile, and this works. I got $60 million worth of pipeline for my client using this exact tool, and it's about $50 a month. It really does work. So we use this to kind of sell a $10 million thing. We sold 6 of them. But yes, so we've got I won't go too much into detail, but you have a miniature little sales playbook or a communication playbook for that specific person. So you can go in, you've got a DISC profile, you've even got compatibility assessment between your own, because it rates you versus the person. So how well will we get along? We have the same personality type, so it means our natural style will work effectively. And it does, doesn't it, Sandy? We work well together. So yeah, you've got all of these different things. So when selling to Sandy, when cold calling, I have all these different approaches I can use specifically for him. When writing an email, when qualifying, when negotiating and closing, all of these things. So across generally the sales process, but at this point, it would just be the when writing an email. So it tells you things like how the subject line should be, subject length, salutation, greetings. You'd like somebody to get straight into the point, you know, hi, how's it going? You don't want any of that. I'm exactly the same. I prefer them to go, Heather, I've got this opportunity, want it? And I'll give a thumbs up, and yeah, straight to the point, exactly. So it's really, really useful stuff. And then what you can do is you can download that as a PDF, and I'll show you exactly why in a second. So flipping over to Claude as my other recommendation here. So you have LLMs, large language models. You have ChatGPT, you have Claude, you have Gemini, you have Copilot. They all more or less, very loosely do the same thing, but they have different strengths. The strength of Claude is that it's very human sounding, and it's excellent for any form of copywriting or creative work. So I have pre-written a prompt, and if you want to learn to prompt, completely separate situation. We have not got time for that today. I can teach you if anybody wants to know, to just drop me a message on LinkedIn. But I've written a prompt, an AI in bid writing prompt here. So this is just purely an introductory email prompt, and you can mess around with this as much as you like. So I've just written it includes a character, it's got plenty of context, and it's got clarity, which are the 3 C's of good prompts.
Had suspicious lesions, also contained rulers.
Oh, I think that was an accident. Yes, so I was thinking, what's the suspicious lesions in? But yes, so let's get this prompt out of here. So what we're saying is you're going to act as an expert business relationship builder. You're going to build me an introduction email to this specific person, and I've attached the sales playbook. So write me an email taking into account all of the things we've just learned about Sandy here. So every single rule is going to apply to this email copy. So super, again, really useful. All 3 of these really useful for loads of different things. So let's put that prompt in here, and we'll just put the word Sandy, and what we need to do is attach. And this paperclip makes all the difference when you're using these AI tools. We're going to attach that PDF, that sales playbook, that communication playbook we've just got from Humantic. And now we're able to create really personalized stuff for Sandy. So this, as I say, quite a broad introductory email. We haven't given any details, but you can say, I want to say this specifically, and then apply all the rules of this. There we go. So it's doing this. To read the DISC profile, so it prefers a more formal approach, value proof of impact, and appreciate a professional but calm approach. And there we go. So it's given a few things here. So we want the company details here. So what we've asked AI to do is to ask us if it wants any clarification. So I'm just going to say I don't have them now, but you would normally add them in. I'm just to show you the final result. Okay, and it's going to give us a template email. There we go. And this template email is written specifically for Sandy, and we've asked it to tell us how it's written specifically for Sandy at the end of each piece of copy. So we've got our email there. It's very short. We've got just Sandy, comma. You'd be so surprised how the difference between hi Sandy, hello Sandy, and just Sandy, comma in people actually responding and reading emails. It's amazing. So all of those rules apply to this email there. So I'll be letting you know how you can get all these prompts and stuff in a little bit, but I thought those types of things might be interesting. Sandy, does that sound?
Oh, so I actually was just thinking about all three as you went through in reverse order. So that last one, I would probably prefer a hi, I'd be honest.
Okay, good to know. Good to know.
But I want to get to the meat of it. So it called me pretty right. That makes sense. That's slightly terrifying, but also quite nifty. I think the other interesting thing with Humantic that is clearly great, but also people potentially have slightly different personas online to reality. So I do think there is a face-to-face element to that as well. You know, if that's all you've got, it's way better than just a random, banal, generic one.
100%.
If you can get to them face-to-face, have a coffee, have a conversation, you should be able to get a bit more with that. I think the other one, the letterly one particularly, really interesting, that how often, and I speak as a sales director, how often have members of your team had a really good client meeting, they've learned a bunch of stuff, but they didn't really write very good notes and the information was lost. I think suddenly, you know, they're walking home, back on the train, whatever, they talk into it, it collates it, it shares it, you get it into your collective consciousness. That's incredibly powerful to just not miss the key nuggets that you've missed before. Annotating the salesperson, letting them do the bit they do best, and then reusing that data. And I think there's a lot of data management that comes out of this that you can just do better in ways you never did before. That's one of the big takeaways.
There is an app that we spoke about before, and we decided not to include it in this, which was Whisper. Whisper, it sits on your phone and it is deliberately, it's a little deceptive, I think. That's why they've called it Whisper. If you wanted to record an in-person meeting, it's there sat on your phone. Your phone doesn't even look like it's on, and this thing is recording verbatim. And Sandy was saying how much, obviously that's hugely ethically questionable anyway, but it could be seriously bad in certain situations, you were saying.
Yeah, I think, and you'll have customers that will sometimes be very happy talking in maybe Chatham House or off the record or on a one-to-one basis. And as soon as you put a recording device in front of them, they might clam up. That's very possible. Or, frankly, if you've recorded them without permission in your pocket and they find out, I think work on the assumption you've lost the bid, frankly. But interesting that these tools exist and that can be happening. Also says as a possible individual, be aware that somebody might be recording what you're doing now.
100%. Yeah. And that's it. These tools are everywhere and they're £10-20 a month. They're very accessible. So yeah, something to be really aware of. I think with AI note takers, it's more obvious now because they sit and they take a space in these calls. You'll see for people that you see my own Circleback AI note taker. It also publishes something to the chat to let everybody know it's there, that level of transparency. But there's a new one called Blue Dot, which sits on your actual thing. It sits as a blue dot in the corner of the screen, which I think is not good. That's going the wrong direction. I think it's really important to know when you're being recorded. So yeah, be aware of things like Blue Dot and Whisper as well, like Sandy said in both scenarios.
We use Sybil for Contact Finder Pro, so she comes in, she's in here now. And it's great when a customer's told you what they wanted and you went later on, you went, what did they mean? And then you go back and you listen to their exact words. You just watch the video back. That's incredibly powerful as well, but do it with them cognizant and give them the ability to turn it off. Just, it's polite, if nothing else.
Or you can ask questions again, download that transcript from an AI note taker, upload it into something like Claude or ChatGPT and ask the question, I often use it. So did we talk about pricing in that conversation, or give me the key points of the things they want from me building training programs? It is, so give me the key points to kind of build programs from what they were talking about. Okay, so next stage, because we've got a lot to cover and we were over halfway already. Bid, no bid. What is this? What does that mean, Sandy?
So the ITT's come out. You've been waiting for it for a while, it's landed, and you're interested in bidding. there are two things that happen now. So you need to make a choice, and that choice will depend on two things. One, kind of the competitive landscape, your wider research, and two, what's actually in the document. So that first one is, it's come out of NHS Trust, whatever, it's for an IT thing. What have they bought before? Who's currently incumbent? What information can you glean? What previous practices and behaviors do they do with their assessments? And then you can look at, frankly, what are your chances of winning based on their normal behavior? It's the kind of thing you want to do. It's your kind of tough. But if they buy IBM every year for years and years and years, how are you going to displace them? And I think often companies are too optimistic. They kind of have a go, or sometimes they bid to show they're involved and show they're keen, which I think is mad, actually. I never really agree with it, because frankly, if a customer gets 12 bids to review and only 4 of them were realistically feasible to win, they've still got to read and mark the other 8. That just takes up lots of time for limited value. I don't know how that shows them that you're keen and how they warm to you. So have a look at that background data. The other thing to look at is, what does the ITT say itself?
Sandy,
So,
what is an ITT for the newbies, please?
Perfect question. Invitation to tender.
Okay, yes.
They sometimes use things like ITN as well. Invitation. They actually have a couple of different abbreviations, but they all come back to the same thing. Here is a request, or even request for proposal, RFP. You'll hear it's asking you to put in your bid.
Okay.
They will have a number of questions within that. Some are quite short. Thank you. Some are quite short. Some are like one I had about 5-6 years ago, which was a 97 document ITT, not pages, documents, and each document was 10 pages minimum. One of those documents was 140 pages. It actually took a team about 2.5 weeks to read it, and then to work out that we probably couldn't win, which was a sort of sad spend of, if you think about the time effort of 2 weeks of expensive senior people reading and going, oh, yeah, this document's irrelevant. It took me an hour to find that out. That's super painful. And sometimes you'll also look at things like the valuation criteria. So how much is it on price? How much is it on technical? If there are social value questions, which by and large there will be if it's a decent sized bid now, what are they asking for? Can you deliver those things, and can you do it realistically better than other people? Because if I use a rule of thumb, if you don't think you can get an answer into the 80s or 90s, don't bid. If you don't see a path to that higher score, someone's probably going to beat you. Also look at how generic, ouch, Paul, I feel your pain. How generic are the questions? I've seen this a lot lately, where they go, describe your agile methodology. How would you resource this project? Frankly, like Google can have a pretty good answer, like Claude could probably have a go. And you see these answers ending up in the sort of 90%, and everybody's scoring very similarly, which means it's entirely on price because of how the maths work. You need to have a look at that and make a clear decision. If you're going to be the cheapest, if you can do that, it's great news for you. Have a go. If you're a differentiated offering that only has really expensive people, probably don't bother.
Sorry, I've gone off the thing. Sorry, Sandy.
Oh, you're right there, Heather.
I've just accidentally clicked something I'm trying to find. Bear with me. Keep talking. I'll be back. There we go.
There it is.
There it is.
Thus proving everybody this is recorded live.
Yes.
So you were going to talk about some of the tools you can use to make that analysis before your IT betrayed you.
Yeah, well, no, I was just looking at the chat as well. That kind of what did we just say? I've lost my chat. There we go. So Paul is working on Army Bid with over 200 docs and 3,000 pages. So there's a lot. So I'm seeing an instant use for AI here, which is its ability to summarize and its ability to create interactive versions of documents. We were just talking about the AI note takers, weren't we, where we have a transcript and we can ask questions of the transcript. So now these documents are no longer static. We can make them interactive. In fact, we can, something we hadn't spoken about, there's something called Notebook LM by Google. I won't demo it, but it's free. I think it's notebooklm.google.com, and you upload documents, and it will create whatever version of it will create study guides for you. It will break it down into pieces. It will even create a hyper-realistic human to human podcast of them talking about what's in the document, which is absolutely bonkers. If you want to go for a bit more of a novel way. But I think what's clear here is that tools like ChatGPT and Claude, actually Gemini and Copilot would also be very good at this because it's a really good use case, is breaking down complex documents. You could say, here is tell me the essence. You can ask, as I say, I think it's more about asking questions than summarizing, isn't it? But you can get to the essence of those 97 document ITTs and start to understand exactly what's there far more quickly than ever before, without missing anything out. Because let's face, are you going to realistically read all 97 documents? Does that happen, Sandy? Is that something you just can't avoid?
So in that example, we had to read most of them. There were some that were things like JSP 440 for those geeky defense customers who know that, and you can kind of go, okay, that's the same standard policy. But you've got to recognize that it is the policy and that it applies. But a lot of them, you kind of just, in the old world, had to sort of sweat your way through. Sometimes you even see these brilliant ones where there are evaluation criteria explained in 3 different documents, and you kind of have to triangulate, which is an absolute nightmare. Because then you start to worry: do the assessor, do they actually know these evaluation criteria? Have they triangulated, or are they just going to favour the last one they read? Anyway,
well, triangulation, that sounds like a great feed all 3 documents, help me work this out, help me triangulate. That's AI is going to be absolutely amazing at that. So again, you need to know how to prompt properly in order to do this, but tools like ChatGPT and Claude would absolutely help. I'm going to talk about context windows just quickly, and then we'll come back to this slide actually, because it's something really important, because we're talking about huge amounts of data here, and there is a limit when it comes to AI. So context windows. So when you're talking, say you're talking to ChatGPT and you've put something in and then it's giving you something back, and you go back and forth and back and forth, that conversation has a bit of a limit before it starts forgetting stuff you've put in. And when we're talking about summarizing very large documents, that becomes very, very important. So ChatGPT, which is your GPT-4 Turbo. So this, I'm just talking about the non-techie version. There are higher versions for more technical people that you can use with more tokens. So a token is about 75% of a word. So the context windows for different models. So we've got ChatGPT at the bottom here. That's 128,000 tokens, so around about 100,000 words. Just to put that into context, War and Peace is 587,000 words. The whole of the Lord of the Rings is 481,000 words, but the average novel is about 70,000 words. So that is quite a considerable amount of words still that you could put in. But when you start to attach documents, you can see how these 97 different documents could very, very easily take up your 70,000 words. So you kind of want to be conscious of the tool that you're using if you've got a lot of documents. Claude has a lot more than that, so 200,000, but the winner at the moment, and they keep on upping it, is Gemini, which is Google's one. The best thing about Gemini right now is it has 1 million tokens. So if you're looking to summarize something very long, I think Gemini Advanced, it would be the paid one, which is £20 a month. That would be the best tool to summarize really long documents, and be careful that it's not missing things out at the beginning. So I just want to talk about that briefly. But something else I want to bring up was CFP Analytics, which is not an AI tool at all, but what I thought with Sandy, it'd be a good point for you to tell people about that, because I think it'd be really interesting in this situation here to have that kind of information in advance. Yeah,
indeed. It's a perfect tool for that market analysis. So it takes published OCDS, which is the official statistics and procurement statistics data published by UK government, puts it in a big elastic repository and gives you a dashboard on it. So you can start to do complicated queries. So the example I like is, let's say you were Addison Lee and you wanted to look at the size of the local council market for taxi contracts across the north of England. That's quite a tricky query to work through. And you can now do that with our dashboard. There's a kind of an AI. Sorry, Patrick, you could be on mute, would be great. So you can now run that complicated query. There's a version where we whop an AI tool over the top of it. Let's just mute Patrick, because that's going a bit wrong. Have you got him, Heather?
Yeah, I'm on it. I'm on it. Yep.
So yeah, so we can put an AI tool over that in the future. Currently not yet, but the key is you can start working through that data. I'm also ever so slightly nervous of applying an AI tool over that kind of data and it inferring conclusions that aren't there. I think you maybe use it as a annotation and then you check, because you think you need to get the hard research and you go, look, frankly, we're exporting a CSV file big to a big spreadsheet, basically, for those not au fait. You just want to have that data and look through it. I think the actual individual points can be really interesting, but you need to be able to get to that data fast. And that's the kind of thing that analytics product can do. Again, not an out-and-out AI tool, so in the interest of time, we'll smash through.
Yeah, but I mean, if anybody's interested in CFP analytics, we've got our emails at the end if anybody wants to get in touch with Sandy about that. Okay, we've got a couple of questions. I think I'm going to fit more into the risks and limitations bit towards the end.
There's a good one from Steve that I said we'd come back to at the end. I think it's a tricky one, so it's worth some time on it.
Yeah, and also somebody mentioned the UK voices coming to Notebook LM. They're coming soon. I can't wait. So at the moment, it's 2 American voices. Honestly, people who haven't tried that, it's such an easy thing to try. Just give it a go. It's mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing how incredible these voices, AI voices right now. Okay, so back to this, and then over to our third stage, which is response writing. And I think a lot of this is you, Sandy, and it'd be a good opportunity to show people a bit of Tender Ninja as well.
Yeah, indeed. So this, I think, is where kind of recently the biggest breakthrough in bid writing is. You can get your data, you can marshal your things, you've got your credentials, you know what you do as a company, but you've still got to do the sweat of writing a seemingly interminable number of 500-word random word count answers. So actually, Heather, can you just go on to the next slide and we'll just run that video in the background. So we've made Tender Ninja. It's our AI bid writing tool. We've designed it to make it as easy for salespeople, because I am one, as possible. And one of the bit I liked the most is the batch processing answer. So we just generated a video with 4 random questions, but I routinely do it with 14 in the demo. We actually don't know how many it can do at one go, because we've never found a limit. You upload your questions, you upload your sources, you basically hit go, and it just batch processes and smashes through them. Now, normally, I remember the old way of doing it, and I've been in many of these bids and still wake up screaming, where you collate 14, 15 more questions, you assign them to lots of individuals who may not be experts in their field. They go away, they pull together the answers, and they take probably 1 or 2 weeks of collating data and then assembling it and rewriting it, and then you red team it. And at the end of that 2-week process, not only have you spent 30, 40, 50,000 pounds, often you don't actually have very good answers. So with something like Tender Ninja now, and other bid tools are available, but I wouldn't possibly recommend them. You can crank out. We did 6,500 words, takes about 6 or 7 minutes. Now, are they perfect answers? Would we recommend that you just submit them immediately? I mean, no, I think that would be a bit rash. I think you need that human component, but you can write tone of voice. You can get your customer phrases included. You can get the emotional points included, and you can get a good draft so fast that, frankly, then you've got a lot more time to really review it and really get it perfect. So Heather, just maybe let's show us the next one as well, which is the really fun one. So we've also developed a word wizard. So in that same process, and I suspect many of you will admit you've been there, you've told somebody very clearly you've got 250 words and they've come back with 306, and you're like, what? Why? And they've sent you that at 11 p.m. at night. Thank you, Leanne. Yeah, it's Tender Ninja. AI is not traditionally particularly good at word counts, which Heather will, I'm sure, endorse in a second. But at that kind of time of night, you need to rewrite it, because any word that goes over the word count in a government response simply won't be marked. Sometimes they might even discount the entire question. I've seen procurement people do both, frankly. So you have to get under that word count. And this tool finally gives you something that can do that. It basically takes every sentence, it looks at how to rewrite that sentence in the shortest possible format. Oops, if you go back, Heather. Actually, play it again because it's fun. And we'll take each sentence and shorten it. What it also does, and this is, there are a couple of other videos we could show, but they're not as quick. it actually has a scoring mechanism. So we don't give scores that we know will be scored because the assessors will mark how they choose to mark. But we go, oh, this question is about this. This is a good answer. You're about 60, 70%, whatever. That's kind of our estimate. And when you've shortened it, what has that answer changed to? And it was that idea of consistency, because if you're taking 306 words and cutting them down to 250 words, you don't want to cut out the bit that was useful. And I dread to think how many times at 11 p.m. poor harassed bid managers have just had to cut out text and cut out random text to get under the word count, and they happen to have accidentally taken something really good because they didn't know and they were tired. And now the AI doesn't really get tired. It does amusingly take slightly longer at 4:30 in the afternoon as the US wakes up, which we discovered yesterday. Takes another 3 minutes on a normal run. Other things I would just suggest for people with the use of this, when you're writing your responses, PQQ questions, so those ones we talked about before, talking about what's your agile methodology. Give us 3 examples of when you delivered a contract like this. This is absolutely perfect use case. You've probably got those credentials written up. You certainly need to, either for manual bids or for AI bids. You should have that anyway. And you've got processes published, you've got methodologies published, but they'll be in the wrong format. They'll be in the wrong word count. The Tender Ninja can simply rewrite them into the right length, combine those 3 things into the right structure. It actually works by creating a idealized answer. So it goes, tell us your policy on malware prevention and updating software, or whatever you said. And it goes, oh, so it should include this, 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 and this. So then the tool just goes and drags all the bits of policy you've got out there and puts it up in that question in that order. Now, you might be asking about data privacy. It will only work with what you've put into the tool. So it will not be reaching to ChatGPT to go, oh, you should talk about this, because if you haven't done it, that's not helpful, and you need to be accurate and precise. So also, you need to make sure that your own data isn't suddenly getting posted and becoming part of ChatGPT's learning library. That's not where you want to get to. So you've got your own partitioned zone, which is super important. You can also use this for more specific questions. So a harder use case is, give us your solution to delivering this specific problem in this specific way. You don't necessarily want to let the AI decide how you run your business, because kind of what's the point of your business if you do? But what you can do is you can take your own storyboard. So you can go, oh, well, we're going to deliver this way, and Steve's going to do this, and Jenny's going to do this, and we're going to use this supplier from here, and this and this and this. You can put the storyboard, and then you can just upload it and run it, and it'll work. And you're right, Heather, I shouldn't talk forever about this because I could keep going quite happily. And I think, this kind of tool generically is the kind of way it's going to start running from now on in. Anyone wants to know more, I'll happily chat. You probably worked that out already.
Yeah, I'm going to do a really unprofessional thing of just getting out of this for a second, because I've only got one screen. So I'm going to have to just temporarily go to my little notes. 1 second. There we go. If you'd like to book a demo, I'm going to highlight it right in front of you and then put it very smoothly into the chat. I'm so sorry, I forgot I didn't have a second thing. So let's back onto...
Again, just proving this was recorded live for those who got the video.
There we go. If anybody wants to book a demo of Tender Ninja, there you go. There it is. Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much for that. I just think it's particularly with the word count as well. You just don't get that with AI. I genuinely love it. I think it's going to make my world of public sector bidding so much easier as well. So I'm really looking forward to digging into all of that. Okay. So right, and did we cover the end bit, the solution questions? I think we were on the PQQ stuff. Yeah, we've done that.
One. So the more complicated questions, you can again use it, but that's the storyboarding piece. So
yes.
you write your storyboard, upload it, and then it makes prose. So for those who aren't Shakespeare, this can be really a time saver as well. So that was also my justification for, I think you can now produce good answers in 10 to 15 minutes. I wouldn't suggest you then submit them. You could. I wouldn't recommend it, but it still saves you weeks of effort.
But those ideas, the stuff we've spoken about already, like the humantic profiles, the ideas that you've had for answers, they could all be uploaded as well into it, couldn't they? And all be taken into account. So it's just getting better. I think when people think about AI, they think about a reduction they worry about reduction in quality, an increase in efficiency and a reduction in quality. And actually, I think with this, it's both, isn't it?
I think when you think about those context windows, human brains have context windows as well, and we don't always favor the right things. We will remember certain facts and forget others.
Yeah,
you can get the AI to remember everything you've told it.
Yeah,
that's really powerful if you use it correctly.
Yeah, it does have, and we'll talk about that in a second. It does have quite a lot of human issues with that. Okay, so yeah, I've put the free trial if you want to go in to have a look. So not free trial, book a trial, and yeah, just click on that link. But yeah, I think it would be irresponsible of us, as always, whenever we're talking about anything to do with, for me, whenever I talk about AI, I want to talk about the risks and limitations so people can play safely. And then Sandy's going to talk about specific risks and limitations within bidding. So with AI, there's bias. There's a huge amount of bias, and it does apply to every single tool. When it's things like Tens and Ninja, it's going to be less so because you're giving it a single source of truth. But when you're looking at using tools, pretty much any tool, ChatGPT, Claude, most generative AI tools, their data set is a download, like a snapshot of the internet. And that is compiled full of human created content, and that is a mixture of, you know, your peer-reviewed academic journals, your scientific papers, but it's also your Reddit comments, your personal blogs, your random websites about rabbits and all sorts of strange things. Humans are very, very strange. There's a lot more poor quality content out there on the internet in this big snapshot that it forms generative AI's brain, then there is quality, balanced, well-researched content. So it's inherited that in heavy level of human bias, and you can see it very clearly when you put something into an AI image generator. So if you type in business owner, that's one I tend to use, and you'll see images for, and it's always the same. It's 4 images. They're always Caucasian, young, they have a beard, they have glasses, and they are male every single time. So Sandy, yeah, you are a proper business owner according to generative AI. I am definitely not.
AI avatar. I'm not actually really here.
Yeah, one day, but oh, that would be weird. I don't want to get into those days. But yeah, so it is incredibly biased. So you need to know that when you get responses from generative AI, you are getting an inherent bias in there as well. So again, this human in the loop. Humans need to be instructing AI, and they absolutely, regardless of whatever tool we've spoken about today, absolutely need to be checking what good looks like from the other side as well. Hallucinations. These things lie. They lie through their mechanical digital teeth, weird teeth. I don't know. AI does not have teeth. I don't know what I'm talking about here, but they lie, and that is again because of their brain. Its brain, its data set being so poor quality. So it has lots of different types of bias that result in hallucinations, but around about 10 to 15% of what you get as your result will be a hallucination. So that could be just factually incorrect. It could be a contradiction of something it said earlier. It's just something that isn't right. And you know, we're just talking about humans and AI, you know, aren't that different. Humans lie too. Humans are biased. You know, lots of the problems that we have with AI are very much problems we have with humans as well. Sometimes, you know, AI glitches, often it glitches. Humans glitch too. People who haven't had enough coffee yet, for example. We just talked about coffee in the chat. So just to be aware, again, the way around this is humans in the loop. With hallucinations, there's a lot of work going on into something called RAG, which is called Retrieval Augmented Generation. And that is where it's basically selecting certain sources as more relevant than others in a very, very simplified way. So you're sending it somewhere specific before it goes into its broader brain. So you're going to get better responses and less hallucinations, which is really exciting. So I think that hallucinations become less and less of a problem as we go, but we'll end up with others. And then we have data privacy, which we've spoken about before. So using closed systems is really, really important. You know, as somebody mentioned in the chat earlier, if you're going to use the free versions of these LLMs, your ChatGPT, your Claude, etc., do not put anything of any sensitivity into them. Yes, you can switch off its ability. There is a thing in ChatGPT you can switch off its ability to train, but I still don't trust that, because they're giving you a free version for a reason. You pay for privacy when it comes to AI. So generally, I use, for example, ChatGPT Teams Edition, because it's got enterprise grade security. I use that because I'm also running lots of things through from my clients as well, so they need to be able to completely depend on me. So ChatGPT Teams, Claude, up until very recently, and I adore Claude. It's okay, but the security's been fine so far, and then suddenly they've muddied the words in their security policy, and I'm digging into that right now. So just be super careful with what you load to Claude. Tender Ninja, what's the security like on that, Sandy, actually?
So it's good. What we're doing is we are making sure that your data is yours and yours alone. It's partitions. As you say, if you do the free stuff, they're going to take your stuff. We've got our Cyber Essentials certificate, and it is all locked and partitioned in your own area. Because
Okay,
it has to be. Has to be that
it has to be. Yeah, it can't function without it. Yeah, and that's what you need to be looking for, is those closed systems, to be super careful with data privacy. And then context windows we already spoke about, but just a reminder that it will start forgetting stuff you've put in. So just use the right tool. If you've got something really long, try Google Gemini. It's actually very good. And also I'd call it the one to watch when it comes to LLMs. But yeah, there's lots of other things we can speak about around risk with sustainability and lots of other things, but I'm very aware of time. We've only got 4 minutes left. So Sandy, bidding specific risks.
And just that final one on that hallucinations one, I think it's worth noting, government's now approved the use of AI for bids. They've actually just asked for information. So PPN 0224, public procurement notice, it was actually earlier this year. It now says you can use AI, it's going to tell us that you've done it. And actually to not use AI gets increasingly tricky, because as soon as you've had a Sybil recorded thing, or you've used Claude to do some research, you've used it. Everyone's going to do it. But back to that hallucination point, there's a worry of hallucinations. You're going to have to prove that what you say is true. Frankly, that's a good thing, because historically I dread to think how many sales directors have won bids on things that weren't true. Maybe they didn't deliberately lie, but maybe they exaggerated, maybe they didn't quite understand. A number of times things get rewritten in red team and aren't quite accurate. I think anything that drives that makes a more level playing field, and the increasingly, honesty can be rewarded more, I think, actually, with AI done properly than maybe it has been. We talked a lot about security. This is tricky. I think that gets to a point actually where the government starts to use AI to mark bids. It starts to get a lot more bids, so it has to mark them faster. So it starts to use AI tools, at which point the security rules have to kind of be relaxed so it's fair for both sides. But you might well see, certainly for very high classifications, it might just be incredibly difficult. You might need to get an on-prem version of an LLM or a tool to do this. Sorry, on-premise, so you put it within your network. If your network's isolated, that's going to have a whole host of constraints. Like, it's probably not going to be as good. It will take longer to be available. You may lose some of the advantages. But kind of, if that's the rules of your customer, kind of that's the rules of your customer. Some stuff also is interesting, because where things are maybe marked official sensitive, I think probably we may need to challenge. Some of the people who've worked with defense will notice that things are published with official sensitive markings, but you download them off the internet and they don't tell you in advance, and you just download them to something official. There's clearly a problem in there as well about what actually is defined. Certainly for things like PQQ stuff, where you're using case studies or press releases that you've just of work you've done, that isn't secure. That's open public domain. You've already published it out. That should be okay. There was one thing I also wanted to talk about as a different angle, is the over-reliance piece. If you start to just rely entirely on the AI to do everything, you're losing the human element. That feels like your bids might start to just be a little bit generic. It might lose a little spark. And I think of a bid being won when it's competitive by 1 or 2%. So if you just go over-reliant, that could be a problem. There is, of course, the other strategy, where you just use it to bid for absolutely everything and don't think about them too carefully. The kind of mass bombardment approach, almost like a denial of service attack. If it takes you no time, maybe you send them all in. That could work, but I'm not sure it's sustainable for a long time. And we're running out of time, so I'm going to stop talking.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much, Sandy. We've got a question, I think, around AI in defence and classifications, but I've said it's probably better to go have a chat with you separately from Sam Derry. Okay, brilliant. So yeah, a lot of people have got to go now, so I just want to wrap this up just quickly. Thank you very much. That was really, really interesting and really useful for me, my going forth and using AI in my public sector bidding next year. Here are our emails if anybody's interested in AI training. That's my email. If you want to talk about Tender Ninja, about CFP analytics, or even about Contract Finder Pro or AI in bidding, there's Sandy's email over there. Please feel free to get in touch with us directly.
It's actually Sandy.Boxall, which I'm putting in the chat.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I suddenly realised we hadn't noticed that.
Whoops, we both missed that in our little rehearsal. I'm so sorry. So yeah, look for. Have you put that in the chat now, Sandy?
Yeah. Oh, I've direct messaged it to you, which was completely.
Oh. There we go. Let me just stick that in. So let me just get Sandy's one in here. Wonderful. Thank you very much, everybody. Sandy's email is now in the chat. And yeah, do feel free to contact us on LinkedIn as well. So have a wonderful day, everybody. And oh, yes, slides. I will send out a message for everybody about slides and prompts and everything. So you'll get all those afterwards. All right. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Sandy. Thanks, Stella.
Both. Thanks.